Hey girl, welcome to the Feminine Founder podcast, where we are all about learning and growing professionally so that we can build a life that we are proud of and really love. My name is Caroline, and I'm a LinkedIn expert, obsessed with teaching female entrepreneurs how to start, grow, and scale their personal brand and business on LinkedIn. This podcast is all about sharing our stories and learning from each other on how to navigate our professional journey so that we can live our best lives. So if you are just starting your entrepreneurial journey, or if you are growing and scaling an epic company, you are in the right place, friend. Today, I have Megan Tobler with me. Megan is the founder and podcast host of the Self-Start Her, and I highly would encourage you to head on over to LinkedIn and connect with her. Welcome, Megan.
Thanks, Caroline. Really excited to be here.
So for those of you listening, I've actually known Megan for a really long time, and we've been LinkedIn friends, real friends, podcast swappers, kept in touch over the years. And when I actually met Megan, she had already started her entrepreneurial journey, her podcast journey, and I was still working in corporate. And since then, the tables have turned, and now I'm doing the same thing on the entrepreneurial journey that she is too. So anyways, I know you had a corporate job, you had the courage to leave, you started your own business, you started your own podcast. I want to hear your story about where you are now and how did you get there?
Oh, wow. It's a story full of twists and turns and unexpecteds. But today, I would say that my biggest and most prideful title I would give myself is mom. Everything based on that title is why I'm doing what I'm doing today. But today, I am a podcast host as well as a community founder for female entrepreneurs that are in the midst of building their business while also juggling all the realities that life has. We're all busy women, right? But I wasn't always doing this. I actually spent over a decade in corporate sales. I was rising and trying to climb that corporate ladder and really making a name for myself. But the further that I was climbing, the harder I was working, the longer the hours that I was working. And also, I was doing a up to 3-hour commute to and from work every single day. So I just found myself thinking, there has to be a better way. And I knew that I one day wanted a family, but I kept scratching my head thinking, but how? How am I going to have this life and be present for my kids? And I just couldn't figure it out. So at one point, I wanted to learn. I wanted to find out how other women were doing it. How did they start a business of their own? Why did they do it? Why did they choose the specific business the path that they chose, and how they become successful? So like I said, I was in sales. So I figured, okay, I'm good with talking to people. I'm genuinely curious about these people's stories. I'm a great listener. So why not take this as an opportunity to use all of my skills that I've obtained in the corporate world and sales, but also that I'm naturally good at, and use it to learn. And also, I decided to press record, and I decided to use this as a podcast and share it with other women, because I realized actually after leaving corporate that I wasn't the only one feeling this way. People in corporate just really don't talk about it because they can't. So fast forward a few months, I decided to hire a business coach thinking that I was on my way out of corporate. And then I found out I was pregnant. So I kind of rewound the bike a little bit here and pressed pause thinking, okay, I want the security, quote unquote, security corporate has while I'm finishing this pregnancy, and then I'll figure it out from there. Well, be careful what you ask for, because right after announcing my pregnancy to the company, I was a part of a mass layoff, literally a week later. So I then went into panic mode. And I reached out to my entire network, and I literally had, no kidding, no joke here, I had 40 interviews within the span of 2 weeks after I was laid off. I had never worked so hard in my life. And these conversations, I found myself with just this icky feeling in my gut within every single conversation. It just didn't feel right. And so I had to take a step back and think about, okay, I don't want this. So I had a conversation with my husband, and based on kind of the feelings that I was having, the fact that I was already having traction with this podcast and really had laid the foundations, we made the decision collectively to allow me to not return to corporate and instead to go all in on myself. And so I'm sure we'll dive a little bit more into the story here, but that's really kind of how it got started and where I'm at today.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that's amazing that you did that. And I want to talk about that and dig into this a little bit more because, I mean, you got laid off, you were pregnant, all like life-changing experiences here we're talking about. And you had the courage. Obviously, it's a family decision between you and your partner. How did you, like, what was that like mentally for you to have the courage to do that? To say, okay, I was laid off. I've now going to have this baby in a couple months. And I'm also going to grow this podcast and grow this business. I mean, how did you, like, I know you had the icky interviews and everything, but I mean, how did you have the courage to say, okay, no, I'm going to bet on me?
I don't even know if it was courage. I just think it was wanting something so bad in one direction and not wanting something so badly in the other direction that the one direction was pulling me more than the other one, if that makes sense. Like my why was bigger than anything. So it wasn't, I don't even know if I had courage. I just had this why that was so big at that point to keep moving forward. And I feel like whenever a layoff happens, I think it's only natural to, in the moment, feel like poor me. And at the moment, I was definitely in panic mode. But the more I took a step back, I realized it was actually a gift. This didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And if I hadn't have been laid off, then who knows where I would be today. And by having this opportunity when I did, it allowed me to meet so many more incredible women that have gone through similar experiences. And then just this community that I created almost accidentally has been the best thing besides my son that has ever happened to me in my entire life.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you 1,000,000%. You've created something really special online and with your podcast. And my hat's off to you for that. So,
Well, you too.
if you haven't checked out her podcast, Self Start Her, you need to go do that right now when you get done listening to this podcast. So, you've created a whole community online. You've got this whole podcast, snowballing in the best ways. You're obviously a very busy professional. You've got a small baby and son now in the home that you are, responsible for. Tell me about some actionable tips when you're short on energy and time.
Yeah, so I'll preface this that the majority of my business has been built while I was either pregnant or with a new baby in the house. So I was exhausted. My hormones were all over the place, and I was not like the normal Megan. I'm usually like a total go-getter. Like if you give me something to do, like I will do it to the fullest here. But I was functioning in a completely different state. So let's just say that I've become an expert at figuring out how to do things in a different state, but also on very little sleep and very little hours in the day that I actually have to call my own. Because that's one thing that I learned in motherhood, that you really don't own your time anymore. So I might not have a corporate boss, but I do have a baby boss. I will say the biggest thing that I did for myself, and probably the best tip that I can give today, is that if you are short on time and you are building a business, really think about the type of business that you are creating. Are you creating a business where you're fitting your life into that business? Or are you creating a business that fits into the life that you want? So there's a big difference here. And the way that I did that is I originally hired this business coach, and she and I were talking about me becoming a coach of my own. And the more and more that I got into it, the more of that feeling that came back that I had when I was going through those interviews. And I love coaching. I am a huge proponent of it. I've had 2 coaches of my own. Coaches are in my world. But coaching takes a lot of time when you're on a set schedule and someone's counting on you on the other end. And I knew that when I was going to enter into this new phase of life, that my schedule is going to be unpredictable. I have very limited childcare. My mom, luckily, I have childcare 1 day a week. So today we're able to record because my mom's literally in the other room watching my kid for me. But outside of that, my husband works around the clock, and I literally have nap time to build my business. So it was important to me to think about, okay, what does my life look like? What do I want it to look like? And as I'm creating this business, what can I create that allows me to do it in very minimal hours, but still gives me the income that I'm looking for, as well as the fulfillment that I'm looking for? And it doesn't require me to do it on a set schedule, because for all my mamas out there that have had a kid in nap time or just a kid in general, they dictate your schedule. I mean, there's things with like the sleep habit coach and everything like that, and it's great, but kids, like, we're human. People just make their own decisions here. So I would say that that's like the first big one here, is really reevaluate what kind of business you're creating. And for me, I needed something that was going to allow me to have it be on autopilot for one, but then also to like I said, work very minimal hours, but still have that impact that I was craving.
One thing that you talk a lot about and you stand for, and that I love, what I've seen you on the social channels, LinkedIn and Instagram, is you talk a lot about why it's important to be authentic and relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love for you to talk about that more, because I feel like going into 2025, and Gary Vee's the one who said it, like, the curated feeds and perfectionism is out. Like, everybody's sick of that. So how has that been helpful to you in building your business and your community?
So I feel like I have always tried to just put myself out there as is. And if people like it, great. If people don't, then I'm sorry, but don't follow me. Like, I love everyone. So I hope that you like me, and that's my people pleasing tendencies. But you know what? I realize that not everyone's going to be for everyone. And I agree with you. The theme that I'm seeing, in especially this year, 2025, everyone's talking about authenticity. And there have been moments that where I'm trying to do like a more curated approach, and it just doesn't feel right. So going into this year, especially, if you were to go to my Instagram, I have completely just gone like no filter at this point. I don't even care if my feed looks pretty anymore. Like, I have put myself out there in more ways than I've ever put myself out there, because I said, you know what? This is the life that I have. So come and take a look at my messy life over here, my messy but beautiful life. And get a sense for really what it feels like to build a business while I'm also chasing a toddler. My house isn't clean. I'm in sweatpants almost every day. My hair most of the time is dirty. Like, it is what it is. I'm in PJs sometimes till 10 o'clock when my son goes down to a nap. Like, it is what it is. And I think that being authentic and showing up truly how you are it's relatable, because people want to know that, like, there's a human on the other side, and they like you and they trust you more typically when they see that. So yes, I'm all about putting yourself out there, being authentic. And I have to say, by just being real, I think that has allowed me to create stronger relationships, because I'm not pretending to be someone that I'm not. Like, what you see is what you get.
I love that. I'm going to add to that too. Not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. And is that hard to wrap your head around sometimes? Yes. But at the end of the day, you want to attract people into your ecosystem online, whatever platform that may be that you want to show up on, that actually relate and want to do business and be a part of your community. And if they are negative or don't like what you have to say, like, bye, unfollow me. I don't even care.
Well, and this even goes to the people that are close to you in life. I have made this transition to where I'm no longer really talking about starting a business. I'm actually talking about building a business while also being a mom. And some of my audience, it doesn't resonate with anymore. And that is difficult, because again, the people pleaser in me, I want to be for everyone, but I also know deep down that I can't be. So I actually there's a girl that's close in my community that I absolutely adore, but I actually asked her for feedback on things that I was doing, and I did get some feedback that was not really the feedback that I was hoping for, but it also showed me that, again, I'm not going to be for everyone. She did tell me that my content is no longer relatable, and that my feed, it's no longer cohesive. I need like more my brand colors. Also, the pink that I'm showing up with, that it might not resonate. It might be too bold for a lot of people. And then also my energy level. She said that I might need to take it down a little bit to be able to like resonate with more people. And I was reading this and absorbing it, and I understand, but at the same time, I took a step back and I said, you know what? No, I'm not. Like, if you don't like it, then unfollow me.
Never, ever dim your light for someone else.
No. So again, I know it was with good intentions and I adore her, but I'm not taking the advice. And if anyone's listening out there that has ever had people try to dim your light too, like just do you. Like just shut out the noise, put your blinders on and do you. Because at the end of the day, you're the one living your life.
Let's take a quick break.
For those of you that didn't know, I recently launched a digital marketing agency specifically tailored to help you grow your personal brand and business on LinkedIn. My digital marketing service is a white glove, done for you solution, which means I'll be fully supporting your growth on LinkedIn. Services include creating custom content for you, coming up with a LinkedIn strategy, engagement, direct messaging management, and customer acquisition targeting. So if you're interested in learning more, send me a direct message on LinkedIn. I'd love to learn more about you and how I can best support you. I love that. So one thing you talk a lot about that I love, and I want you to talk about this on the podcast to the listeners. What advice would you give to anyone listening to this or watching on YouTube? How do you turn challenges into stepping stones?
Ooh, challenges into stepping stones. I think that's my entire journey here has kind of been a challenge that has been unintentionally this stepping stone of mine because I've kind of accidentally fallen into this path. But challenges into stepping stones, you definitely have to think about that one because I wasn't totally prepared. Let me think about that one.
Let's circle back to that one. So let's talk about community and finding your tribe. You've done a great job about this online, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Why is that so important when you are building your business?
Well, I think that's another one of the tips that I talk about here is to find and lean on a support system. And one thing that I have really found in all my conversations with these women and experienced myself is that your support system at home might not totally understand what you're going through and might not be as supportive as you were hoping for. And it's not because they don't want to be, it's just because they don't understand. And that's okay. So, what I've learned is that it's important to find your people. And I have met the best, wonderful people and some of my best friends now through like the podcasting platform and through these online connections. I'm in California. I know you're in South Carolina, right?
Yep.
Like we met because of the internet and this wonderful community that was created for us. And there are going to be times in entrepreneurship when you're on your highs, you're riding those highs and they're wonderful. But there's going to be times when you're on your lows too. And that's really when you need this community more now than ever. And again, I accidentally fell into community through starting this podcast. And my podcast through starting that community is about to start and turn into like an official community for these moms. And it's just one of those things that I'm just so passionate about because the people for these support systems, they typically are all people that share similar values and have similar different like challenges that they're facing, going back to those challenges and stepping stones here, that they're facing together. And it's like, okay, you lean on each other during these challenges because other people have come before you and they can help you out, and you have come before other people and you can help that other person out. So it's almost like you're climbing up these stepping stones and pulling each other up in the process here. And it's this beautiful thing that has been created just because you found your people.
Yeah, I love that. And that's been the game changer for me. And for anyone listening to this podcast right now, I would highly encourage you to send the DM on Instagram, on LinkedIn, make the introduction, ask for a coffee chat, because you can really meet some amazing human beings online. And for me, I live in a small town in Beaufort, South Carolina. And so I haven't met a ton of other women that are doing the same things that I'm doing. And that's completely okay. But through online communities and through live events and through the podcasts have been the ways that I've connected with women that are doing things just like me, just like you are.
Well, and I will add to that too, going back to the topic of authenticity, is be authentic in your approach, because if it's just like a generic message where you're feeling like you're trying to sell someone on something, I get lots of those. And while I want to support everyone, like I can't buy everyone's product here, but I do genuinely want to get to know you and figure out how I can help you. And you never know, like what comes around goes around. So I think it's just be yourself and show up as you are, because if they're a good human, which most people are, they're going to say yes.
Yeah, don't pitch slap in the DMs, especially if it's the first one, because I don't know who you are. So I don't want to give you my credit card number. I don't want to pay you any money. Like, let's slow roll it. And I love to get to know you first, and then we can talk about sales. But I see people get that wrong so many times, especially on LinkedIn. And I'm just like, bye.
See ya.
Okay, so switching gears here. You've had a successful podcast. I want to hear about your podcast journey.
Like I said, it has been the most rewarding thing. It started out as a passion project, and I started this in 2022. I hit record without any plans of an actual date to release everything. And what I did is I actually started using all of my sales knowledge with prospecting, because I knew the types of people that I wanted to have conversations with. So I decided, I went and I wrote down this entire list of all the people that I knew in my own personal world that had started their own business. And I decided, okay, from this list of all these women, who are the ones that I feel like I have the strongest connection with so far? So that way I could reach out to them, tell them about what I was doing, but also tell them about how it could impact them in the same process. And who would honestly, let's be honest, like who would say yes the easiest at first? Because the beginning is when it's so critical to kind of get that momentum going. And it's like the first person that says yes to you just gets you pumped up and excited, and it creates that momentum to keep going. So use those prospecting skills for my sales days, but also added that human authentic touch that we're talking about here and started it. And then hit record. I think I recorded about 6 different episodes, but I hadn't released it. And then I ended up purchasing a course for podcasting through Kathy Heller. And didn't finish the course, but through that, talking about community, met the most amazing women that were also starting podcasts at the same time. So that gave me the courage, I guess, bringing the courage back into the conversation to actually launch this podcast and put it out into the world here. So we're now in 2025. So it's been about 2.5 years later. I have just released episode 122. And I've had the most incredible women on this show where I'm able to not only personally learn from them, but to share all of their expertise and their wonderful businesses that they've created with my community. Because I am the biggest cheerleader out there. I grew up doing cheer and dance, so I'm a natural like peppy person. So I just get so excited, and I feel like I almost get more excited for these people than they do about their own business sometimes. So it's been a platform for us to just be each other's cheerleaders.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Starting the podcast has been one of the best decisions I've ever made, and it's so funny. I get two responses to when I say I'm a podcast host. Number one is, isn't it a lot of work? And I'm like,
Yep.
isn't anything we're doing a lot of work? Or I get, oh, podcasting is overcrowded. And the people that say that don't have podcasts. I'm like,
Yes.
no, goodbye.
Well, it's funny. Even my husband at the time, he goes, a podcast? Like, why would you, who listens to podcasts? And I said, like billions of people. There's a whole market for it for a reason. And he's now driving and commuting lots of hours every week. And what's he doing? He's listening to podcasts.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And if you're listening to this podcast, I would highly encourage you to start a podcast because it is the best decision. It is, you have to put some work into it, but you get connected to the best people. And I can't say enough good things about it.
Okay, and I would have to just echo that. If anyone is listening and wants like tips or just to pick someone's brain about how to start a podcast, I'm an open book, and I'm sure you're the same way, Caroline.
Yeah, I am. I'm here to help. And I think, the tech stuff seems daunting at first to people, and it was intimidating to me at first, but it's really not that difficult. And you don't have to outsource all these things and hire these fancy producers and all that. You can do it yourself. I'm a bootstrap, do it yourself kind of girl. And what used to take me 3 hours to do an editing department takes me less than 5 minutes now.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I use the same recording platform that you do today, and I didn't start out that way. And I wish I had, because there's been such a learning curve to get to that point, and it took away so many hours that did not need to be there.
Okay, so switching gears, what is lighting you up with some of the women that you're working with right now?
So we're all in similar stages. So I'm about to launch this community that is for women building businesses while also juggling life at home. And so while it's not just for moms, anyone can join that is a female founder. A lot of us are moms. So it's lighting me up to see that there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom at all. I completely support that. But for women that either have to or want to make an income of their own while also being present for their kids at home, it's nice to see that we live in an age where that's possible. And it's nice to be able to connect with these women and to see where they started and like their whole path and like growth trajectory that they're on, because that's rewarding to me is seeing others succeed. So that stuff lights me up. It's seeing even the smallest win, just when one of the girls that I was talking to the other day, someone just got a yes from someone that was, she was reaching out to be on their podcast, or vice versa. I'm getting it wrong. But anyways, there was a yes involved here. And just hearing a yes and the excitement, like I love seeing people win, even the small wins. So long story short, that's what's lighting me up these days.
All right. So as we wrap up, how can our listeners find you?
Oh, well, head on over to the Self Starter podcast, of course, since we've been talking about the podcast. And if you're interested in joining a community of like-minded women that is also going to be full of business tips for helping you grow and launch your business, also mixed in with the reality that we understand your time is limited and to do everything in a short amount of time, then join the waitlist for the community. You can just go to selfstarter.com/together. It's called the Together Community. Or you can head over to my Instagram. It's just selfstart.her and check out the link in bio, and then everything will just be there if you're just looking for something simple.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you, Caroline.